Hope you all had a good time and coming back relaxed and energised. Right, let me start with karakia and then we'll go to apologies. Manawa mai te Māori nuku, manawa mai te Māori rangi, he manawa nui, he manawa tahi, he manawa ora e, he whakamua, kia tina, hui e, tai ki e. Got apologies from Councillor Tupou and an apology for early departure from Councillor Wolfe. Do I have a mover and a seconder for those? Councillor Saw and Councillor Connolly. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed? None. I got online attendance this morning from Councillor Free and Councillor Wolfe. Morning both. Right, public participation. I haven't been notified of any, so we're skipping past that. Confirmation of the public minutes of the council meeting on the 25th of June, 2026. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Connolly and Councillor Rhodes. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed? None. Paper passed. And confirmation of the restricted public excluded minutes of the council meeting on the 25th of June also. Again, a mover, Councillor Saw, Councillor Duffy. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed? None. Okay, that takes us to the main meal of the day, which is the Wellington Regional Head Start proposal. So I'm not sure if it's an instruction or whether it was a request, but whatever it was to Luke and Nigel was to prepare the paper as they ordinarily would, but to be light on the recommendations because we've sort of entered what I would describe as reasonably heavy political territory, and I felt that it was almost unfair on officers to have to navigate that territory with a series of recommendations that were more than likely to grab your attention, and you were going to likely want to have some say on those. So you have the paper, and then you have a separate set of recommendations. I think you should have those in front of you. You've seen them previously. They've been reworked slightly after some of us had a conversation, all of us in this room had a conversation yesterday. This picks up, I think, some changes that you came in with yourself on Councillor Duthie last night, so those are reworked into here. If anybody has come in with changes subsequently, then they're not picked up, and we'll need to discuss that once the recommendations are put on the table. So to the paper itself, it's been a short and sharp process. I am conscious that it hasn't involved councillors from across the region as much as most would have liked. It has been contained within the rarefied environment of the mayoral forum. The reminder is of the mayoral forum is that it's a nothing committee. In other words, it doesn't have a formal status under the Local Government Act or any act. It is just a bunch of guys and girls getting together and talking about local government reform, ably assisted, I might say, by officers from the various local authorities, including Luke in our instance. What that means is, not intending to be disrespectful to the mayoral forum, but what that means is that anything that the mayoral forum decides or not still needs to come back to councils, and you started to see that last week with Carterton District Council making a decision that they back a separate Wairarapa unitary authority and I think most, if not all, other councils this week will be making their own decisions on a way forward. What is clear is that we are not standing behind a single proposal as councils from across the region. What looked reasonably hopeful at the beginning, which was one unitary authority with community councils, has in the last 2 weeks sort of blown apart, aided, I think, by councils having the benefit of local polling that they have organised for themselves, which is informing them of their direction of travel, and perhaps a closer attention about what that model was going to mean for particular councils and what have you. And so some have backed away from the original proposal. Not sure there's too much else I can or need to say. I think you're pretty wise to what's on the table and the benefits, the pros and the cons of this. I am conscious that just having gone through the more experience and now seeing about on the ground will yeah, will be I think it. Yeah.
One going? Whoa.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Sorry about that. So I think we're probably all a little bit more conscious with Jakiwai rollout of what this can mean in practice. Things that seem rather distant at the moment, at some point will hit the road, and we've, I think, got to be conscious about how this all does land in our communities. It seems a long way away at the moment, but I know that you'll have that in your mind. So, in relation to the recommendations, which I propose to move and find a seconder for, I think they're pretty self-explanatory. There are notes about the process and the poor time that all councils were given across the country, the lack of specificity within the simplifying local government documentation that we were provided, essentially a sort of mantra of less is more, and that was pretty much almost it. An understanding that the regional council has a set of comprehensive arrangements with local authorities, with iwi authorities, as well as treaty settlement commitments that need to be brought into the system. A note that other councils across the region will be selecting other proposals, so this is not a matter of us all standing behind one proposal anymore. And raises the question about whether we are just inviting the backstop proposal, but there's nothing to be done about that anymore. We are putting our best foot forward individually rather than collectively on change. I think perhaps recommendation 9 is at the heart of why we would I'm hoping, maybe presuming, support a single unitary authority, and that is that many of our functions are better done at scale. That is why we are a regional council. It's not by accident, it is by design. And finally, what the paper does is invite me on your behalf to write a letter setting out the issues that are in the recommendations. I don't propose to pour over the letter now. I'll continue to circulate that in the next few days as we know more about where our territorial authority partners are landing. So there's still a little bit of time to wordsmith that, but you've got the intent of the letter in front of you. Any questions? Councillor Elder.
Are we being invited to vote on these as a block, or do you propose to vote on them separately or individually?
We can take them separately if you prefer to stand apart from some of the recommendations. If you signal which one, then we can cut to the chase sooner rather than later. Councillor Duffy.
Morning, everyone. A question for you, Chair or officers. The mayoral forum proposal, if some form of that was to go forward as a head start, it has pulled together a bit of detail. It's got some substance to it. It's got some content. But then there's a detailed design process to follow. So my question is around the flexibility in that design process to consider some of the nuances. And the example I would use is current proposal for community councils is that the chair of the community council would be elected a bit like a mayor is elected, but that's a different model to the way that you, chair, are elected amongst your peers.
Correct. Yeah.
And there are pros and cons of both those models.
Yep.
With a community council elected members electing as peers a chair, that chair only can serve at the pleasure of will no longer function as chair if they lose confidence of it. So there's an advantage to that. There's also an advantage of having that publicly voted. That's specified in the proposed Head Start proposal, and yet it's, to my mind, it's something that could be analysed further in terms of what's going to work best. So just an explanation about how fixed the details of the Head Start proposal as it's formed would be versus, notwithstanding we don't know what the government's response would be. Does that make sense, Chair, as a question?
So I think my response to that, Councillor Duthie, is that I'm not convinced that there's necessarily a lot of daylight between backstop and Head Start. Head Start puts us in the ballpark of a proposition, but the sort of detail that you're talking about electoral regimes, about how a community council would work in practice and what the distinction between the functions of a community council and the unitary authority are, those are matters of detail that will need to be explored through the next phases, and that is irrespective of whatever we put on the table at the moment. Remembering that what we put on the table has to pass muster with the government, and so if they don't like aspects of it, they're going to potentially override those things. I'd like to think that we were going to have a conversation at the very least, but I couldn't guarantee that at this stage.
So just supplementary, in the common paper, that's one of the appendices here, there's sort of three options delineated. One is support the Head Start proposal. One is to tinker with it, but then the problem of that is all the councils sort of would have to agree, and the other one is to just reject it.
Yeah.
Is that second sort of tinker with it a little bit of a moot point, because unless you are fundamentally changing it, the detail of it doesn't matter too much at this point, because there's a whole process to undergo afterwards.
Yes,
so we don't need to sweat the detail.
No, I think that
concept is important, but the detail is less.
I think that's right. One of the things that's already arisen in our conversations is should there be 5 community councils or 6 or 7, or how do you actually split them? That's a level of detail that is down the track. It's a fair issue to raise, but we're not going to get anything off the drawing board if we get fixated on that just at the moment.
Can I just add slightly to that, because it's quite an important question, so it's probably worth dwelling on. There is a lot to happen at the back end of whether or not this Head Start proposal A is submitted, and then B, whether it's accepted by the government. The detail of the things you're raising, Councillor Duthie, will be subject to a work program that will have to include the region again. We hope in some form the Regional Council as well, and obviously you're going to move and discuss recommendations to that nature. So the kind of the key thing here is around the broad brushstroke of what a unitary or unified council structure could look like. And as the chair said, there's not going to be a complete consensus of views around the region, but what is important, do we get to the Head Start point for the government or not? So that leaves plenty of room for a whole work program around detailed design.
Councillor Johnson.
Actually asking that question about detailed design, but I think that the proposition, Darren, that you've put up could be strengthened by mentioning that thorough economic analysis would need to be done in the regional council functions, because the mayoral working group actually have very little idea about what we do or what the impact is. And after the presentation yesterday that Quentin did, I think that becomes even more apparent. So I think it should be raised or phrased as a risk, because the unintended consequences are pretty poor. So that's really a question. Is there a way, even at a broad brush, we can say there are some consequences that we should include? I think, Darren, you made a really good point about Te Ake Wai and the lessons learnt. And it sort of worries me that what's not written down is assumed to be okay. And that's where we'll fall into a hole. So I think we have to be a little bit cautious. And the last comment I want to make is about democracy, because we were cut out. It actually flies in the face of the democratic process of democratically elected people for an organisation that actually has legal standing and has had legal standing since 1989. And I think what they've done is appalling. You know that I think that, but I think it should be called out because it's just wrong. So I think, somewhere along the line, I'd like to see some strengthening on those issues, if that's possible.
Okay, so what I've got immediately clear is a new note around the functions of regional councils and territorial authorities having to be better evaluated, evaluated and costed. Francis, economic evaluation and costings need to be made. So that would be a new 7A. Priscilla's going to type that up. If there's anything else, have a think about what it is you want to capture. I've got Yadna.
Thank you. Just if I may, my question to add on to Councillor Johnstone's point is, in addition to the economic analysis and evaluation, can we also have an understanding of the benefits and the potential outcomes of those investments, please? Because financial analysis without attaching it to the outcomes and functions is also not helpful. So if there's a way to include, economic evaluation and analysis in relation to the benefits of something. I'm not the recommendations guy, So my actual question is around. Thank you for this set of.
See where you get to, Priscilla.
Vibes.
Marbo, the castle. Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
My question is around the process to date, and as we've identified, there's quite a detailed work program for the second stage. And is that irrespective of whether the Head Start proposal is accepted, or if we land up in the backstop? We're likely to need some work program across the TAs and ourselves, right? So What is the likely and acceptable vehicle or construct to carry on that work? Because I think there has been some dissatisfaction with the way the mayoral forum, as you've indicated, Darren, around that process and the transparency around that. So is there, one is a question either to yourself or to officers around what is the sort of likely and acceptable vehicle for that?
Yeah.
And my second question is, can we reflect whatever the answer is in some of our recommendations? And I think I've phoned a friend to help craft some of that.
Okay. So that hasn't been settled. So the first question was relating to Head Start versus backstop. What the government has effectively said is that if you're in Head Start, then one of the benefits of being Head Start is you're in the club with the government designing the new system. Yeah.
Some say over your destiny.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that sounds quite attractive when you've all got standing behind one proposal. Now we're not. I think the mature thing that we're proposing in these recommendations is irrespective of whether it's Head Start or backstop, or whether you've put a different model on the table. You've still put a Head Start proposal forward, but you've got a different model. All parties, the Regional Council, territorial authorities, and iwi partners all need to be involved in co-design with the government in the next stage, and so that's captured in those recommendations. What was the second?
What is the likely vehicle that we can advocate for, and can we have some of the recommendations? I think recommendation 11 might be the right one, where we just be a little bit more specific about how we want the process to go on, irrespective of backstop or Head Start.
Yeah. So that might be the place to strengthen that if you want to do that. But at the moment, there is, I suspect there is a presumption by some people that the mayoral forum would just carry on, having seen that not necessarily the operation of the mayoral forum, which has been quite has been well managed.
It's been quite efficient. It's come out with an outcome.
Has, yeah. But the downside of it is that you don't get to look in on that and don't get to participate as fully as you should as elected members, and that needs to change.
Yeah, I think not just ourselves as regional councillors, but with our peers from other TAs to understand each other's work. It sort of seems counterintuitive to keep everyone apart when the process is to bring everyone and merge them together. But what do I know? See, there's a question there.
The nature of the vehicle is yet to be determined. What's safe to say, it'll be very different than the current vehicle. Remember, we had 3 months as councils across the country to develop or not a Head Start proposal, so it was a very artificial and hard time frame which facilitated processes. Probably, I think a lot of councils would agree, across the country was subpar in terms of actually participation of members from across that council sector. Another phase, if it came to that, which was actually looking at the details of design and the details of actually how you constructed boards or community councils, whatever they might be called, would require a different approach. It would have to be far more detailed, far more comprehensive. It would get down to a lot more detail, and it would require the involvement of all councils, because at that point there would be a course of travel that all councils would have bought into, either voluntarily or otherwise, but there would be a direction of travel, and that's quite a different process in the last 3 months.
Councillor Free.
Thank you. At the danger of wordsmithing, I wonder if a little amendment to number 8 could incorporate what I think Yardna's saying. So I would suggest that we perhaps just add number 8, that to identify the value, the current value added, and then the potential costs and benefits of reform. I think Yardna's repeatedly tried to make the point that we're not looking at the value that's actually exists in the current setup. And there's a risk of just thinking there's no value in what we're doing. So I'd like to specifically say that the evaluation and costing should actually look at the current value add before assuming that something else is going to be better. I don't know if other people agree, but anyway, it would just say to identify the current value added
Okay, we'll.
Anyway, it's a suggestion. And my other slight caution is over number 10. I agree that. Okay, yeah, and thank you. And then my number 10, I have a little bit of a problem with saying on a regional basis. I do agree that they're most effectively managed at scale, but I think the whole point of this argument is what is the scale? And when we say on a regional basis, I think we're kind of, are we assuming the current GWRC basis? Because I think that's showing quite a closed mind. I think I'd be happier if it just said effectively managed at scale. Or because it could be that public transport, for example, we're starting to reach our Te Hono trains are actually going beyond our region. So what is the appropriate scale? So by saying on a regional basis, I'm not sure it's adding anything. And I think in a way it's possibly, for me, it actually creates an issue.
We can just remove the words on a regional basis that says effective scale.
I think that is the point we're trying to make. It has to be a big scale. It has to be scale.
Okay.
Can't be bitsy little bits and pieces.
Yeah. Councillor Gallon.
I'm going to try and do it as a question, save doing it during debate time as an amendment. But number 10, and that's the new 10 to the councillors online, because I think they may be looking at the old version. I would have an issue representing the Kapiti Coast and other areas where they're looking to go out as unitary authorities. We say will complicate. Well, it actually is complicated now, so I don't want, I think it would be better to word it, do you agree, more along the lines of will retain elements of complexity rather than simplifying, because it already is complex. We're not saying the new approach will, if they go on their own, will for the first time introduce complexity.
So we'll maintain complexity rather than simplify.
Will retain.
Sorry?
Retain. Will retain elements of complexity. I mean, happy to have better wording, but that's the sense of it for me, because there is complexity now, but we're saying that complexity will stay.
Further complicated.
But it won't be further complicated. It's complicated now. It'll be a different kind of complication.
Okay, hang on.
Well, I think that this might be something that we have to put up some options and vote on, because I'm not necessarily saying the quantum of complexity will increase, but I'm saying there are different complexities that will, the fact that our functions will be split between multiple unitary councils, I think does introduce additional complexity. And so I'm not saying, I don't think retain the complexity is correct.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to add additional complexity.
Well, for me, the word is fragmentation. Rather than aggregation.
Where are we landing on?
That's your motion, Chair. If you're looking for a slightly different word, complexity is a word that's been used a lot around the C table, certainly, and if not the mayoral forum around what a disaggregated function of local government could look like. It does add more complexity, but depends how much you want to get into the wordsmithing of these recommendations to a certain degree, given the context of the paper.
I'd suggest may introduce complexity.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. There is complexity now. Actually, I think my microphone is still on, so maybe that's what I said. Consequences. So if I just, sorry, and I know we're all trying to help, but there is complexity now. I'm just saying there will be complexity as well. And I don't want to predetermine or judge the scale of the complexity or...
How about across the Wellington region will introduce new complexities?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Yep.
On the 10, I reckon you should just delete it because there's such a high level of prediction in it that it's not really our place at the moment to make that sort of level. And I don't think there's anything lost by removing it because it just means that a lot of people won't take any notice of it, so it's not necessary. But the other thing was just while I'm on the line, 13E, I've got a bit of a problem with that. About selling public assets and stuff. I think it's way too premature to put a stake in the ground on that issue as well. I reckon good governance is about keeping your options open, and declaring to everybody now that we're against the sale of these assets is way too premature in the process, and it's something that will only come out in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So, too early to...
So I think what E is aimed at is that assets are not forcibly sold through this exercise. Not that local authorities couldn't do that through getting public mandate for that in due course. So if that needs to be changed to reflect that a little bit better, Phil, then we can do that. Because you can read it the way that you've read it. When I look at that, I can get to that point. Is there any way?
Well, I think it's going to happen anyway because, you can kind of see the government's intentions here to park Regional Council falling in with everybody else until they can sort of work out what to do with Metlink and the ports and stuff, and give everybody time to work out the CCO strategy, and then at the end of the next triennium, have all that kind of stuff sorted out so that the full Regional Council picture is sort of sorted.
Okay.
So there's probably a bit of inevitability in there.
I think we've found a way to do that. We'll put the words up on the screen. In the meantime, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, I'm not going to agree completely with Phil. I think we have to be quite cautious about how we actually word that. It really worries me. And I know that when it's happened in the past, like over the airport shares, which many people will remember, the public gets pretty upset. So I think we have to be quite cautious, and if we were going to go Phil's way, it would need to actually have a democratic process about the selling of any assets. Assets are hard won and they're easily lost. So I have a problem with that one, and I also disagree with removing the core functions. While everyone knows what the Regional Council does, it's clear that nobody knows what the Regional Council does because we keep on being told that. So every chance we have, I think we should repeat it. So sorry, Phil, I'm going to disagree with you on both those points. But
Okay.
Is that okay? We're still friends? Yeah, go.
That's the most important thing. Okay. Yeah. So,
Just an amendment to recommendation 11 that reflects Yardner's point. So it says, agrees that irrespective of the proposals put forward to government, all councils, their elected members and iwi should be included in the next phase of reform with a transparent process supported by public meetings and documentation inherent in the next stage. When I say public meetings, I don't mean public meetings. I mean meetings that the public can attend, like in the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act kind of wraparound.
okay.
I should say briefings.
Can you read that? Oh, yeah. We'll bring it to Priscilla. And let's just throw that on the screen. Is that the last of the changes that we think we've got? Okay. So we'll wait for you, Priscilla, and then we'll just review them all. One last time. Okay. Right, can you take us to the top, Priscilla? Just checking with you that you're comfortable with those first 4 recommendations.
Point of order, are you
Yep.
checking that we
I'm
agree
just-
with them?
I'm
or
just checking for the
that wording
wordsmithing.
is-
Yep.
Because
Yep.
we might vote against them.
Yes.
but-
Yeah. Sure.
yeah.
No, I'm just checking because you can't see everything easily. I just want to go through them 4 at a time, if we could, Priscilla. So those first 4, you're comfortable with the wording. The next 5, those ones didn't change. 10, I think, did. The end of 10 was a minor change. And the stuff that you've just put in is number 12. So can you just focus on 12 for a second, Priscilla? So from with a transparent process supported by public meetings and documentation inherent in the next stage. Comfortable with that? Okay. Yes.
Maybe I suggest transparent meeting, because public meetings does to most people mean a public meeting, town hall.
I mean, like just the regular process that we have around government, local government
meetings or briefings.
Publicly open meetings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Francis, help.
Yeah. Or doesn't it just be briefings?
Well, no, I
don't
want-
know.
I
You
want-
want meetings.
I want meetings. I want the mayoral forum not to be closeted away without
Yeah.
Yes.
scrutiny.
Same. Yeah.
Okay.
I can speak to that as the person who suggested the elected members. So our council has been part of the Head Start process through the mayoral forum, but only Darren has been privy to any of that. Our elected members haven't. And we also haven't had any opportunities to sit down with the other elected members in our constituencies and have some to and fro around that. That's what we're seeking in the next phase of process.
What effectively it says, Phil, is that unless this conversation comes to this table, you generally haven't been involved in the process. And the question I think people are raising is that good enough as elected members? Should you not be more strongly party to the conversations?
And additionally, I think it's to our territorial authority colleagues as well that they're also voting on behalf of our functions, so it would stand to reason that we would also talk to them as well.
But I think I'd like to think that one thing that we have done through this process is keep you briefed. Yes. But keeping you briefed is not the same as you being able to actively engage as we just have and say, well, what about this or what about that, or I'm not happy about X, Y, and Z. You haven't had that opportunity to the same extent that people in the mayoral forum have had. Okay. In that case, I'm looking for a seconder, for anybody who's brave enough. Claire?
Before we do that, we somehow have lost anything about economic impact.
So come back down.
Is that further?
8.
Can we?
Yeah, number 8.
Or is it too? Is that too annoying?
Yeah, it's just quite hard to actually see it.
The 8 is the one on the screen. Can you see that?
Yeah, good, thank you. As you went past, I didn't see it. It went a bit fast for me.
We can email it to members now. We can pause along the way as we go.
Just bear with us for a
moment. So, do I have a seconder? Councillor Saul? Okay. Yeah, you do that. Can I ask Councillor Elder, is there a recommendation you particularly want to isolate or a set of recommendations that...
Note 7, I would like to see isolated. Note...
That's on the original version.
Yeah, original number 7. And then 2 of the sub-paragraphs within note, I think it's 14 now, the final invitation one.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, cool. I'll just have to try and keep an eye on.
Yeah. I didn't want to vote for the one we had a little bit of wordsmithing on that said something about agree that it adds more complexity. I didn't want to, I can't remember the numbering because it's changed.
So now 11.
Yeah, I don't want to vote for that. I'm not sure what I think about it, but I don't want to actually endorse that statement at this time.
Okay. Have those gone, Priscilla?
Yes.
Right. You have got them in front of you now. So I have a seconder in Councillor Saw. Open for debate. I don't propose to say anything as the mover. Councillor Duthie. Oh, sorry, Councillor Saw. Do you wish to?
Just a couple of points to make, which I think I've said a couple of times, which is I think the feeling has been that this process has been rushed and a bit poorly thought out, and it's always worth remembering for me that this whole process came out from a leaked cabinet paper, so that always helps my framing and what we're going to work ahead on. But I just want to acknowledge the officers across all the councils who've probably been working with each other around some of the potential amalgamation and reorganisation we're going to be facing. Also, just want to acknowledge our staff and our organisation for having this come through their in trays and wondering about what their future will be. And so, whatever we do as elected representatives till 2028 has quite a massive bearing on not only our organisation's staff, but also the regional functions that we're entrusted to take care of. So just want to acknowledge everyone's place in that, and I hope that these set of recommendations not only capture our position, but it also supports some of the sentiment around the rest of the region, around elected representatives as well, and the challenges that they are also grappling with in this process.
Okay. Got Councillor Duthie, then Councillor Free. Oh, and Councillor Conley. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I've found considerable wisdom in F words on this topic. Now, not the unparliamentary ones, although they did slip out when simplifying local government was announced. A bit of a gut punch to us as regional councils. And another one may have slipped out when I heard a elected member of Carterton District Council call Greater Wellington an amorphous blob. It has so many staff we don't know what they all do. These hurt, and I must admit, I cursed. But they also hurt staff. So I just want to acknowledge our Greater Wellington staff, that we love you for what you do for the region, and we recognise that this is a really tough time with all this reform, change, uncertainty, cost pressure going on. So it hurts around this table to be part of this topic, this debate. It also hurts our staff, so acknowledging that. But the F words that have given me wisdom are 4. So one is around form, and most of the debate and the content of amalgamation type debates tends to focus on the form of local government, naturally. And when I think about the form of local government today and what it could be, there is opportunity to improve it. Another F is function, and that was missing in the government's announcements. That was all about get rid of regional councils or simplify form. Function is really important, and so I'm pleased that the groundwork that the Mayoral Forum and Secretariat have done to specify the functions of local government, to look at that in regional and local scales and to think about that. And I think, again, there is opportunity and function with this reform. Some things could be brought up to a larger scale, like roading, in the same way that public transport is, and some things could actually be taken down to a closer to the community scale, like catchment planning at place. So there's opportunity thinking through the lens of function in this reform. The third F is around the future. The local government structure we have today is a product of the past, and in my mind it's actually no longer fit for the current, today's world, let alone the world in 10, 20, 30 years. There's some good analysis in the Mayoral Forum proposal around the change that will happen in this region, ageing population, increase in population, the potential for natural disaster type shocks and how to fit that in balance sheets and so on. There's a couple of other big ones. One is around climate change adaptation. So it's not just shocks, it's actually the sheer volume and cost of changing our land use and the way we do things in our infrastructure for a changing climate. And the other one is about affordability, where with an aging population with lots of fixed incomes, rates today aren't affordable. They're not going to be affordable in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time. So we've got we're designing local government for the future, and that lens has to be in the mix too. Which brings me to my fourth F, which is funding, in that, in my view, the local government funding model today is broken and doesn't work for today. And as we'll see that in all councils' long-term plans, we'll be wrestling with this problem, and it is only going to get harder. So without change, I actually think we in councils, all councils, are going to be governing a doom spiral of reduction in local government services and infrastructure. And unless we change up, then it's going to get worse, not better. One more F I'm going to throw in at the end, and that's whānau, which is not spelt with an F, but it can be honorary. And I guess how I've approached this debate this topic is actually to think of our region as a big family, and to realise the strength and opportunity in kotahitanga. Really enjoyed conversations at Kapiti Coast, South Wairarapa, Masterton, with my Upper Hutt councillor colleagues on Saturday, with Hutt City councillor colleagues. We need to do more of that, and we're all in this together. We're all facing these same problems, and I think we all need to be together in the solution. Sometimes cross-subsidisation is held up as a threat to that, but now everyone's woken up to the fact that money flows over the hill to the Wairarapa. That's going to stop. I don't think so. I think the whole idea of public services, be it taxation at government level or local government, is all about cross-subsidisation. If we divided our cities into suburbs and worked out how much my suburb paid in rates versus the services they get, we'd have wild cross-subsidisation all over the place. Belmont, where I live, would pay a lot more because we don't have a pool or a library, right? But we've got lots of affluent ratepayers. It doesn't work like that. Public services are about providing value for all of us in a way that is beneficial far beyond the actual cost to ratepayers, even though it's not even or user pays sort of fair. When I went to Riversdale for a weekend holiday, I was proud to see Greater Wellington had funded restoration of the lagoon. And when I went for a walk in the Rewanui forest over there, which I might do once in my lifetime, very proud that we have a K&E program that is controlling the pests. So I don't resent some of my rates money flowing over the hill. I think that we get better value as a region by working together in that way. So despite some negative F words at the start of this process, I actually think that being part of this Head Start proposal and working it through some detailed design to what is best is going to put us in better stead for a local government in the future. Apologies if that was a bit long, but that's wanted to lay out my thinking and share that with my colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor Duthie. Councillor Free.
Yeah, thank you. And gosh, Quentin, I agree with everything you said. So you've almost made it unnecessary for me to add anything because I'm not sure what I'm going to add. But I also want to just acknowledge the success, actually, of getting something on the table in 3 months, and want to thank all the staff that have been involved, also the mayors and you, Darren, for the work that's gone in. To have something that's actually coherent on the table at this point is, I think, a real achievement. So I'm grateful that we're putting something forward. I think it's at least we haven't stood entirely back and said it's all too hard for us to even think about and let someone else make even the small decisions. So people don't like change. We don't like change, but I think Quentin said it really well. I think after 40 odd years or nearly 40 years of what we've had, the model we've got now isn't the best model. There are huge disconnects, and I saw that with my passion for public transport and all transport. I saw the disconnects between what the territorial authorities are responsible for and what the regional council is responsible for. And try as we might, there were just these huge gaps, and lots was lost in translation in both directions. So I do think that there is merit in having a look at how we could do things differently. I don't think we've got it right yet. I think there's just so much more talking that needs to be done to get the very best possible result, because this next result could have to last another 30 odd years. But Quentin, you did say, or Councillor Duffy, you did say it very well. There are new challenges, and they're quite massive challenges. So climate change and the whole adaptation process has to go, the whole funding thing that's insufficient at the moment. I think having to make changes will actually reveal a lot of things that have been sort of covered over or swept under the carpet a little bit, but they need to be brought into the light and need to be faced up to. And uncomfortable as it is, I think this process will hopefully result in better local government for us all. So that's I'll leave it there. I'll be voting for everything except the thing about the complexity in point 11, because to be honest, I agreed with Councillor Gaynor's point that there's already complexity in the system, and I'm not sure whether better or worse or just different is going to be the result, but I don't feel like making a statement about that particular thing. Thank you, everybody.
Councillor Free. Other councillors? Councillor Conley.
Thank you, Chair. A few years ago, my husband had a toothache. He did not want to go to the dentist, and I harassed him about his toothache for many, many months. And some days later, he came back to me and he said, "I've been to the optometrist." I said, "Why did you go to the optometrist? You have sore teeth, not bad eyesight." "Oh, the optometrist said I had 20/20 eyesight." It's like, well, that's great. You still have sore teeth. Now, that's the kind of thing my husband gets up to. He needs to go to the dentist. He doesn't want to go to the dentist. He thinks he will placate me by doing something else instead. And indeed, the local government reforms are a bit like that. We have a lot of problems with local government, and we've been through processes to identify what they are. And funding was a key problem that was identified in the local government sphere. And yet the current government comes along and puts forward a proposal to do something that does not address the key problem. This is akin to my husband going to the optometrist when he has a sore tooth. So I don't think it's a particularly useful process, and up until yesterday I didn't even know how I was going to vote on it, because the process has been so abysmal. It has failed to address the core problems. In fact, it's failed to identify what problems it's trying to fix, and I didn't really know how I could support anything that came out of a process that was so atrocious. But I guess I just wanted to thank the chair and the rest of the team for working through these recommendations, because I am actually really happy to support these. I guess I had a few core principles that I was sitting on, and one of them was the fact that regional functions need to be delivered at a larger scale. Another one was that I didn't think small TAs should be forced into amalgamation, at least without some kind of democratic process having been gone through. So I didn't know how those two would sit together, but somehow the chair and the rest of the team has managed to produce a set of recommendations that capture the principles that I do support, without challenging me in some of the areas that I don't support. So I would really like to thank everyone for coming up with these set of recommendations. The other thing I wanted to thank was some of my colleagues, and I'm sure this doesn't reflect everyone around the table, but I am aware that Councillor Duffy, Councillor Saw and Councillor Makarine in particular have been doing hard yards in the community. Councillor Saw and Councillor Duffy have been going around the various councils and getting views of other councillors on the ground, which has been so valuable. And Councillor Makarine has been on the Kahui, getting views of Mana Whenua and iwi. And I guess, the fact that iwi have been excluded from this process, despite the fact that iwi have a very important constitutional role in New Zealand, and that is guaranteed under law, and yet this process has not reflected that, has been one of my major fundamental problems with what's happened. So I guess, on that spirit, I feel like the treatment of regional councils has been completely unfair. The rhetoric around regional councils has largely been driven, in my opinion, by them doing their job as required under legislation, and that has been to put a handbrake on problematic developments that challenge environmental outcomes, and that is exactly the reason regional councils exist. And so that's become politically unpopular, and that has led in part to the reforms that we have in front of us. So this is not a good reason to support the reforms. However, the recommendations we have, and by restating the fact that regional functions should be delivered at regional scale or large scale, I think captures what I want to say in relation to these reforms. So thank you everybody who had a part in putting this together.
Kia ora. Thanks, Councillor Connolly. If there are no other contributions, I propose to take the recommendations as follows. So we'll work through what's on the screen, but we'll take 1 to 6, then we'll take 7 separately, then 8 to 10, then 11 separately, then 12 to 13, and then 14 separately. We also have the option in 14 of taking that by the sub-clauses if that's of any benefit to any of you. So recommendations 1 to 6. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, no. 1 to 6 are passed. Recommendation 7, if you could just move to that recommendation, Priscilla. So this is the one that says notes that the Greater Wellington Regional Council has long-standing and comprehensive relations. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Sorry, Councillor Free, was that a...
Yes, I support.
Very good. Do you wish to have that recorded, Councillor Elder? Yep. Recommendation passed, 1 recorded vote against. Recommendations 8 to 10. Okay, you can see recommendation 10 is the one that says agree that the regional council functions, responsibilities and flood management, etc. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed? None. Okay, that's passed. Recommendation 11. So recommendation 11 is the one that talks about introducing new complexities. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed?
I oppose.
Do you want that recorded?
Yes, please.
Okay, Councillor. And Councillor Rhodes. Okay, it's 2 noes and the rest yes, so it's passed. Recommendations 12 and 13. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, none. And finally, recommendation 14. Do people want to take those as the subparts or just put the whole lot up? The whole lot. Okay. All those in favour, recommendation 14, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Aye. 1. Recorded? Councillor Elder. No and recorded, please. Okay. Paper passed in its entirety. Thank you very much, councillors. Big decisions. Moving on. So item 7 is a resolution to exclude the public. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Gaylor and Councillor Makarini. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed? Okay. Aye. Francis, do your thing. Opposed? 1 opposed recorded? Yep. Opposed for 2. 2, yeah.